Hello there, friends, and welcome back to Hit or Miss Doctor Who for another thorough analysis that will hopefully not singularly fail to grab your attention. I am your host, Mike Wilson, and yes, we're finally back from our little trip through time. It's been a while since we last set the TARDIS coordinates, but we're wrapping up our Dalek season in style with new episodes both this month and next. And today, we're starting big. We're heading back to 1963. Sort of. It does look a lot like 1988. Anyhow, we're talking dueling Daleks, master manipulation, and unlimited rice pudding. Yes, we're doing a deep dive into Remembrance of the Daleks. And joining me on this return trip through the time vortex is my ever-faithful co-host. Let's hope he brought the Nitro 9 and left the boombox at home. It's DK.
No, I always like blowing shit up, mate. Hello.
Yes, well, that boombox was a dangerous anachronism, DK. You should never have brought it. And we're joined by two brilliant returning guests. Firstly, you heard him last talking 70s Who and Day of the Daleks, but now he's turning his critical eye to the 80s. It's Cliff Chapman. Welcome, Cliff.
Hello, thanks for having me back.
Thank you for coming back. You're very welcome. And as I say, we've been talking off air quite a bit about this episode, and safe to say, I think we know it very well, so hopefully we'll have plenty to say about it.
Oh, yes.
And last but certainly not least, she joined us to review Rob Shearman's Dalek and showed that she's not shy about doling out opinions like ace whacking Daleks with a baseball bat. It's Jill. Welcome back.
Hello. I have never hit anything with a baseball bat. It's all a lie. The restraining order is completely fictitious.
Well, the Daleks deserve it, I'm sure. So, we'll be getting into the review a little bit later. But first, as always, it's time for a little light interrogation as we start off by heading into the vortex. What I've been using this series as we're doing Dalek stories was to basically ask favourite Dalek stories. But I know that you've both been on this before, so we've already covered this. So I figured we kind of fold this into the main review because Remembrance of the Daleks is often regarded as the best Seventh Doctor story by a lot of people. So I figured, why not go around and ask what is your favourite Seventh Doctor story out of the 12 that exist, or, if you want to go really nerdy and go expanded media, by all means you can. Cliff, we'll start with you. Do you have a favourite Seventh Doctor story, and is it Remembrance of the Daleks?
Oh, God, there are times in my life when I would have said Remembrance, but I think weirdly now, I would put all of season 26 and probably 3/4 of season 25 on a sort of timeshare of rotating favourites, because I genuinely, depending on my mood, absolutely ruddy love Remembrance, Happiness Patrol, Greatest Show, Ghostlight, Curse of Fenric, and Survival, and even Battlefield, I'm kind of have a very big soft spot for. So, depending on my mood, it could be any one of those 7.
Yeah, well, I mean, out of 12, that's basically any men in that case.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And I know you're kind of deep into the Who lore. Do you have a favourite expanded Seventh Doctor story that you wanted to recommend, maybe, for people that aren't as familiar?
Oh, expanded. So with Big Finish, it's often overlooked, but I think dust breeding is absolutely fantastic. There's a nice little surprise in it if you don't know. So don't go looking for plot spoilers. Just kind of go into dust breeding dry. And I think you'll have an enormous time because Caroline John plays a wonderful, fruity accented rich lady on a spaceship. There's the stories about Sebastian Scream and planets, and it's very New Adventures feel, but Sophie and Sylve are wonderful in it, and it's great. I really love dust breeding.
Awesome. I shall consider that recommended and look it up. I'm sure it's available for download for about $1.50 or something. Knowing Big Finish.
Yeah, that first 100, they're cheap as chips. They're brilliant.
Exactly. Yeah, awesome. Right, Jill, what about you then? We'll come to you. Do you have a favourite Seventh Doctor story of the televised one?
I have to totally agree with our previous guest that those 7 stories are excellent, and they do sort of change depending how I feel on the day as to which one I like the most, but I'm going to go with Curse of Fenric because that is today's choice.
Haha, good girl.
But don't get me wrong, all the others mentioned are also very much loved by me. They are wonderful stories, and they've grown on me over the years. I don't think I was quite so enamoured of certain of them when they first appeared, but now it's sort of Yeah, I don't know. They're like old friends. They grow on you.
It seems like sentiment, sort of fan sentiment, certainly has changed a lot on the Seventh Doctor. 'Cause I remember when it was relatively fresh, it wasn't that well looked on, and it's generally sort of gotten better and better regarded, I think, as time has been kinder to it. So, yeah.
I remember season 26 having a lot of people going, bloody hell, it's becoming really good again.
Yeah, exactly. As it gets cancelled.
Oh.
Are you as deep into the lore as some of us? Do you have a favourite expanded Seventh Doctor story?
I'm gonna go for the obvious book, which is Human Nature, and of course I'm gonna throw in Survivor Sin. But yes, I mean the New Adventures generally are wonderful pieces of work. Mostly, some of them are absolute trash. Don't read Transit. But yeah, the New Adventures are just wonderful. Yeah, love them to pieces. Many wonderful big finishes as well, but I'm afraid the New Adventures as books rather than as big finishes are something I would highly recommend to everyone.
Cool, awesome. TK, over to you then. Do you have a favourite televised Seventh Doctor story, and is it Remembrance?
It's not Remembrance. They like Cliff and Jill. It fluctuates depending on the day, but for the most part, it's Ghostlight.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's okay.
Solid choice.
But okay, cool. Any reasons particularly why, without spoilers? I
just love the whole atmosphere of the piece, and I think had it continued down that kind of vein, I would have been a very happy chap. But there's an element of oddity in that story that I think works wonderful. With Syl's Doctor.
Yeah. Hey, you know what I'm going to ask DK? So, favorite expanded Seventh Doctor story? I know you're into your expanded media.
I do love my New Adventures. I will give a shout out. If I did have to pick an audio, I would have picked the exact same one as Cliff. Dust Breeding is a fantastic audio. So yeah, consider that your second recommendation. But I think I'm going to go with Lance Parkin's Cold Fusion.
Oh, good call. Yeah, that one.
Yep. Good choice.
Sweet. Well, yeah, weirdly enough, Jill and I are of one mind and in sync, because I was going to say Remembrance is close, but my favourite Seventh Doctor TV story is The Curse of Fenric, and I was also going to recommend the Book of Human Nature.
Well, it is the obvious one to choose. I can't go against my principles.
Yeah, I don't think it's better than the TV version, because I really love that version, and I love the way that it's written by Paul Cornell, but obviously, it started somewhere, and it's interesting to see the book as it was and see the differences and stuff as well. So, yeah definitely good stuff. I think that was all I really had to ask. So, that out of the way, we shall move along. I think that was all good choices. So, we're going to jump now into the section that gives the podcast its name, and that's the Hit or Miss section.
How I hate these hit or miss performances.
Which you're all probably dreading and forgot about. Right. So, because I've been doing this with our kind of Hit or Miss Star Trek podcast, what I've done is I've gathered 7 things for the Hit or Miss section. And I'm going to just go around and ask us all basically to pick a number, because we won't get to them all, but that way it's kind of more of a fun lottery thing. And you've only got yourself to blame if you pick something you don't like. And as we've been doing with the rest of the series, I have sprinkled in some Dalek-related things to keep it relevant, but not everything, because I like to have a little bit of variety as well. So I'm going to mix it up. And Jill, I'm going to ask you first for between 1 and 7, please.
3, please.
Okay. Oh, boy. Thanks for this. Right. Number 3 is not Dalek related, and I promise this has been on this list for a week and a half, Cliff. Hit or miss for the 60th anniversary specials. Jill, you picked it, so you're up first.
Yes. I'm just reading these books just to prove a point. I enjoyed them. I enjoyed them a lot. I thought they were going somewhere. I thought the way they sorted out Donna was absolute bollocks. But I thought getting to the end of the universe, something's come back with them. All the Mavity thing's going to be sorted out, and of course, none of it was. So they set up some lovely things, and as usual, they didn't knock them down again. But I enjoyed them. They're fun. Great deal of fun.
Overall, were you going to go hit or miss on that one then?
Oh, definite hit.
Okay, Cool. DK, I'm going to come to you next for this one. Hit or miss for the 60th specials?
They're okay. I don't particularly love the beat the meat nonsense. I didn't think that was a particularly good one, but I did enjoy the other two. Apart from the, as Jill's just mentioned, the Mavity thing. I think that needs to get right in the freaking bin. Loved the second one of the three. Third one was okay up until the end. But yeah, it was. They're okay. I'll give them a tentative hit. I don't dislike them. I just think they could have been a lot better for an anniversary.
Yeah. So okay, tentative hit. Cliff, over to you then for a round two of our social media conflict that we had earlier yesterday.
Debate. I really like them. I think they were the best Doctor Who in about 5 years, and I think they were better than the Doctor Who that came for the next 2 years. I think what I would say is it's underrated in how much they do reflect the 60 years of Doctor Who, because people say, oh, they're not really anniversary-ish. But Starbeast obviously celebrates Doctor Who magazine, which is only 10 years younger 15 years younger than the show, so it's been running for a very long time. So I really like David Tennant's performance in that. Why Blue Yonder, I thought I was surprised by the concept. I hadn't been spoiled. I thought it looked great. Was very well done. I'm not a fan of the Timeless Child lore, but I thought they had the Doctor react to it in a better way. And then the giggle, I had the entirety of the giggle spoiled before me because there was a Reddit leak that was incredibly accurate. And when I read it on page, I was like, oh, this sounds shite. But then when I saw it, I just ended up going with it. I thought Neil Patrick Harris was excellent. I grew to really like Donna. I didn't like Donna very much the first time round. But I think Tennant and Tate, between them, they're just some of the rough edges from 2008 that annoyed me were kind of filed off. There was just a little bit more vulnerability and self-aware humor. It was a little bit less in your face and annoying, I think. So I actually really liked both of their performances, and I was indeed won over by Donna, having been quite anti-Donna. So yeah, and I thought the bi-regeneration was actually quite interesting. And obviously it didn't go anywhere. The whole kind of, the Doctor has come out of time and he's very experienced and he's been around, we'll never see how we got there now, which is a shame. But yeah, they're a hit for me.
Oh, you never know. The Christmas special might wrap it all up.
Oh, God.
Sorry, am I being overly? Oh, whoa! I've obviously stepped on some toes there. Sorry.
Oh no, I'm unless they've got some secret shooty footage, I'd be very surprised.
Yes.
You never do know.
I do not put it past Russell T Davies to actually just have Tennant and Piper in and then merge them together to get a new Doctor or something ridiculous like that. So,
well, yes, or somebody wakes up in a shower and nothing's happened.
That might be the best thing for the last 2 years, to be honest.
Exactly. No, there were some lovely stories during the last 2 years.
There are. I'm being overly harsh.
Yeah.
Speaking of overly harsh, I'm going to be the one dissenting voice who calls the 60th anniversary specials a miss, I'm afraid. Not a complete disaster, don't get me wrong. I really like that they used the Starbeast storyline for the first one, but that falls apart because the ending is just utter fan-like politics, and it just... I mean, you can't set up your own story as you can never see this person again at fear of absolute death, and then a few years later go, never mind.
Yes, that is Russell, though. I mean, you can't have been surprised by it. You can't expect that from Russell T Davies. I mean, of course you did. I
wanted something better or a better explanation.
Of course you wanted something better, but you were never going to get it from this writer. I mean, come on.
But anyway, yes,
you did watch Journey's End, yeah?
Well, I mean, yeah.
I was about to say, yeah.
I liked everything in the Starbeast until that ending. Wild Blue Yonder, I am completely at a loss as to what everybody sees in that story. I know it's wildly popular and everyone says it's like a contender for the best in years and everything. I do not get it. I find it boring. I find the end of the universe where unleashing magic thing just completely ridiculous.
Well, it would have been fine if they used it.
Well, yeah, ideally. But in the story, nothing particularly happens. And I think it also partly hurt the story the way they marketed it. Like, don't market it as, "Ooh, this is the big one. We're telling you nothing about it. We've got secret guest stars," because that made everybody, including myself, think, "Ooh, this is going to be the big actual 60th anniversary one where they'll bring in all of the past Doctors or whatever." And I was like, nope, the guest stars are just Tennant and Tate again. Like, oh, come on. What? So yeah, that kind of hurt it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you lot just have over expectation. That's your problem. You've built yourself up. You're gonna get knocked down.
Absolutely. And the giggle, similar to the Starbeast, I think it probably was the best Doctor Who in years, even as somebody who quite liked a lot of the Chibnall era, for about 40 minutes. And then the Bi-Generation happened, and I still am at a loss as to why. Why Russell did that, other than I can, and it's my show now, basically, because it had no purpose. It didn't go anywhere. You can argue that it was to try and give Ncuti the kind of free reign that they hinted at of, oh, he's free from all the baggage, but that baggage was back 2 episodes later. So
my theory on it. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, no, carry on.
My theory on this is that Russell T Davies had said, we can't do a multi-Doctor special for the 60th because every permutation of multi-Doctor specials has been done now. And then he probably woke up from dozing in the bath and went, I've got it. I know how I can do a multi-Doctor special in a new way.
Which
I'll
would
have
be
them split like
which would be fair
worms.
enough.
So,
then don't double down on that when you do the Rani, have her bi-regenerate as well, and then go, no, that's just what Time Lords do now.
Yeah, no, yeah, there's a... People don't think things through. That's my problem here.
I was warming to the idea when it was like, okay, it was a myth, but myths are coming true because the toy maker's there. So if we accept it as a one-off thing, I guess I'll shrug my shoulders and get on with it. But then, like I said, when you had the end of season 2, it's like, no, because all the Time Lords are dead, genetically, we're now just bi-regenerating to try and propagate the species more. So that's just going to be what happens from now on. What are you doing?
But we are also clearly in a different universe than our own. We are now using the word Mavity. We're now using it's clearly not the Earth as we are now. So we've clearly skipped some sort of timeline / universe thing / whatever.
I think you're giving him too much credit, to be honest.
I am, but you never know. The next person who takes over after him might actually think about this shit. I mean, I know I'm overthinking it, but you never do know.
We'll see.
Yeah, well, who knows who the next person who will take over after Russell is going to be?
I just wanted to give my thoughts and justify myself a bit, but we've talked too much on the 60th for what is ultimately still a hit. I'm the only one that's dissenting, and that's fair enough. Cliff, did you want to pick a number between 1 and 7 other than 3?
6, please.
You're going to like this. 6 is Dalek related and does feed into the story we're about to look at. And it's blindingly obvious. Hit or miss for the special weapons Dalek. This one shouldn't take us long. Cliff, you're up.
It's a hit. I've just got the toy and he's awesome. And when you've just turned 7 years old, he's awesome. And if you were lucky enough to have just turned 7 years old when you first see him, and are a boy and a nerd, when you're 44 years old, he is therefore still awesome. That's how it works.
Well, I think it's safe to say hit in that regard.
Yes.
Too long didn't read hit. So, DK, I'm going to come to you next again, shake things up. What did you think of the special weapons, Dalek?
Absolute belter of a hit. like Cliff said, when you're an adolescent and this comes along, it was just so nice to see.
Yeah, I don't think we can really get too deep into it, to be perfectly honest. So, Jill, I'm going to come to you and ask hit or miss for the special.
Utterly pointless, but a massive hit. Yes, I mean, there's no point to it at all. It's just stupid, but I love it to pieces. Hit.
Yeah, and I'm much the same. I mean, it's a Dalek with a massive, great big gun on the front. What's not to love? Yeah.
Exactly.
Have you read the novelization where you find out how fucked up he is? He's got a whole personality. Basically, in the novelization, there's a whole chapter about how it's like a Dalek mutation taken to the ultimate level as a sort of experiment. And he's like, he's a tank on the outside, but he's like bred for, he's a screwed up Dalek. And
Which,
there's a
given
whole
the
chapter
start
from his
point, is quite impressive.
yeah, it's a whole chapter from his well, I say whole chapter, it's like a couple of pages, like an intermediary insert, and from his point of view, and it's cool.
Wow. I have to read that novelization. That sounds interesting. And
Yeah.
Oh, it's a great novelisation. Yeah, one of the better ones.
Dalek logic, isn't it? You're the most messed up of us, so we're going to give you the biggest gun.
Yeah. Exactly.
Sure.
It's perfectly reasonable to me. I don't know what you're
Daleks
talking
are Americans. What the heck, anyway?
Woo.
Controversial political views. We'll move on from that. DK, did you want to pick a number between 1 and 7, except 3 or 6?
Okay, I'll go with the theme of the day and go for 7.
You have no idea how much you are going with the theme of the day. This is also Dalek related and also related to the episode we're reviewing, so we're getting quite a few of these out of the way. Hit or miss for the Imperial Dalek assault shuttle. DK, you're up first.
Yeah, it's kind of impressive for BBC at the time. It was nice to see something, physically land. It was nice to see all those little fiber optics in the cockpit, but it's okay. I like it. It's again another tentative hit on my part.
Fair enough. Jill, what about you? What do you think of the Imperial Dalek assault shuttle? What a name!
It's perfectly lovely. I'm not a spaceship nerd, and this is not going to go down in my top 10 great spaceships I have known and loved. But it's a little small for what it claims to be. But other than that, yeah, does what it says on the tin. Reasonable hit.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, Cliff, what do you think of this?
I remember the cliffhanger when I was 7 with it crashing down, and I thought it was amazing. And I love the whole zipline thing going down to it. I love the bit inside with the Dalek pilot. And yeah, I kind of get the whole kind of size scale thing, but then I suppose if the Dalek is in the top pod and the other Daleks in the bottom, I think it just about works. But also then they had TARDISes in the 60s that were like massive inside, just like the TARDIS. So maybe it's a little bit dimensionally transcendental as well. But yeah, cool hit.
When I was researching a picture, somebody actually has come up, some really nerdy person who I really appreciate, has come up with blueprints that shows exactly where the Daleks go and how they all do fit into the ship. So somebody's worked it out. some incredible nerd. But yeah, I mean, I am a ship nerd, and I remember the first time I saw this story, I was so impressed with the fact that it was a practical model and it actually landed and it was clearly there on screen and it was something tangible and not like a ridiculously poor effect, like something on a string. And so I thought it was just so cool.
Strictly speaking, it's definitely something on a string. There are,
you know what I mean? I mean, it wasn't like the Daleks' invasion of Earth, like a pipe, piped in that was flying somewhere.
It was a kettle.
It's interesting to compare it with the ship in Silver Nemesis, which is of course only 2 stories later, and they had the physical door, but the rest of it's a model, and you can tell it's kind of keyed in, like the rest of it apart from the door.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But no, I think this. I love the fact that it's not your traditional Dalek saucer design, even though there's no real reason why it shouldn't necessarily be. But I still like it, and I like the way it looks modular, and it's kind of cool and spaceshipy. And again, for much the same reason as the special weapons Dalek, I was like, "Ooh, look, cool spaceship." What more could you want? So it's a hit from me as well. So I think overall hit. So what am I going to pick out of these remaining ones? Do you know what? I'm going to go different than Daleks because I'm interested in this discussion, even though this might end up taking way more of the episode. So this might be a bad idea. Hit or miss, and this is on the list, which would have been number 1 for, if I can find it, there we go, the 15th Doctor. So...
Oh, controversial.
Now that we have a complete era. DK, over to you.
I like Shooty. I think he made a very good Doctor. I think some of the stories that he had wasn't that great, but I think he threw himself into the role. I liked his attitude. I think some of these stories that he was in had a real opportunity to be unique and stand out. I just don't think the writing served him all that well during his tenure, and if the rumors are to be believed, I can understand why he kind of wanted to move on. But yeah, I remember saying to you at the start that I thought he was a really strong presence, and I was hoping that he was going to stick around for a lot longer. So it's a shame, but yeah, he's a hit for me.
Okay, cool. Cliff, I'm going to come to you next. What are your thoughts on the 15th Doctor?
I still want to sort of go with a generous qualified hit, but a very, very qualified hit. I have a lot of issues. I mean, obviously the stories don't serve the Doctor. I think as someone else said on Blue Sky, I think, or Facebook, it's kind of like he has a different character in every single episode. When he was first cast, I only knew him from Sex Education, and I thought, oh my God, he's far too young. And then I found out he's 27, and they were doing that American TV thing of having people in their late 20s play teenagers. Yeah. And I remember, I got burnt with Matt Smith because I thought Matt Smith was going to be terrible because he was too young. And I absolutely adored Matt Smith once he started. After 18 months of me being very annoying and angry and alienating lots of friends by how much I was going to hate the 11th Doctor. But I do think Ncuti Gatwa sometimes comes across as too young. I think the Moffat scripts are by far his best. I think Moffat writes for him really well. And I think his delivery and his performance is very variable. Sometimes he's very good, and sometimes he chews the scenery like a stage school kid in a High School Musical a bit. Sorry, I know that's a really blunt and probably unactorish thing to say, but I think his performance is very variable. But he is good a lot of the time, and I think it's important that he has existed and he's there. So qualified hit.
Yeah. Okay. Jill, have I asked you yet?
No, you haven't. But much the same. I have to agree that he's a qualified hit, as previously said. Occasionally he can go way over the top. He makes some choices that are not the greatest choices of delivery I've ever seen. He tends towards the one note. Anyone who likes Alison Steadman as the mum in Pride and Prejudice will have loved his performance because it's very similar. And there are a lot of people who love that performance. So, but it grates a little. He's too high, too often. Calm it down, love. Calm it down. And I'd have to say the fact they made him overtly gay, this is nothing to do, it's the writing rather than the actor. The Doctor should be the sort of person who sleeps with you because you're clever. It's much like Sherlock. We've had this discussion before, I know. He's not someone who finds people sexy because they look good. He's someone who finds people sexy because they're interesting. And I think that's a problem.
Okay. That's fair enough. I think I can definitely see where you're coming from. I think, like Cliff, I think I'm just kind of glad that this Doctor existed, being a kind of, queer person of color Doctor. I think it was a huge step forward. And so I didn't mind that, even though I would have, because of, my own nerdy brain, I would have liked at least some kind of explanation about how the kind of sexuality works. And
exactly. Or I mean, had he just found him attractive because he was really clever, I'd have gone, okay, fair enough. But he clearly goes, oh, look at the arse on that. But, I have no problem with him shagging men, women, planets, see certain books. I have a problem with him shagging them because he finds their arse a bit lovely.
Okay, that makes sense. I think with me, it wasn't so much that I had an issue with any of it. It was just that, like I said, I would have preferred an explanation as to, is the Doctor pansexual, or is it a question of the sexuality changes with the personality every time you regenerate?
Oh, yeah, no,
and I don't mind either way. Just literally tell me.
I'll agree with that. Maybe you're right. It is just a lack of explanation as to why he's suddenly so horny.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is, I mean, if they had said, it's this.
My regeneration's quite horny. Okay, exactly. Fair enough.
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of forgive Russell T Davies. Really, at this point, it is a self-insert kind of situation.
is, yeah.
And as somebody who lost his own gay partner, I'm kind of like, you know, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on this one and let you have your, you know, fantasy. I suppose.
I mean, it's his show; he can do what he wants with it.
Yeah.
You know, it's fair enough.
But no, I mean, for me, I think Judy was a big hit as the Doctor. I really like probably some of the stuff that you guys don't, some of the more over-the-top dramatics, because I think he really crushes. I'm with you that he's the best in the two Moffat scripts completely, but I think he has great moments as well. Controversially, I know, because I've kind of argued about this with some people, I really liked him in like Interstellar Song Contest, when he's really going to the dark side, so to speak, and he's showing...
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. As soon as he calmed it down a bit, I just found and there were certain line deliveries where you went, have you read this, mate? Because that isn't what those words mean.
He can't say omega, which is a problem.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
He also mispronounces, was it the thing that Moffat always writes? The weapons factory, Villengard.
Yeah, everyone else starts saying Villengard to make it look okay.
Yeah.
The other voiceover says Villengard.
Yeah. Then again, Matt Smith can't say Metabulus. So
no,
I like him. I mean, I think his camp energy is 50-50 with me. Sometimes it really works, and you got to have a bit of that with the Doctor. And sometimes I'm with you that it's just kind of like, all right, tone it down. You know, so. And
I mean, it also depends what mood you're in. Sometimes you just aren't in the mood.
Yeah. And I think my biggest issue, again, it's the writing, because I really want to believe his deep connections with all of these various companions and people that he meets along the way, but we don't have enough time. So I think Ncuti is kind of lumbered with, you really have to pretend this woman is the most important thing you've ever known, and yet she's going to be dead within 5 minutes, or, you know, we're going to quickly have her written out in one 8-episode season and give her a terrible ending or whatever. And it's like, I never believe that connection exists, not because he's not selling it, but just because you've not
the writing.
Work. It's the writing's fault. And I think it's not that you can't do that, because I think Moffat kind of embarrassed Russell T Davies by going like, this is how you do it, mate. And brought him the most believable relationship in one episode with the Doctor and Anita. And was like, look, you don't need 8 episodes. This is how you do it. And I believe them as, you know, deep personal friends or whatever straight away. So it's not,
which is odd, because that's what Russell usually does really, really well.
Yeah.
I
mean, I'm right though. I mean, you can't really say that when Millie Gibson left the TARDIS, it was like, oh, she's the most important. It's like, you barely knew each other.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was a very strange thing.
Okay. I'm going to say it for the 15th Doctor. I wish we'd seen more, and I wish we had.
Oh yeah. No, 100%.
With that out of the way, then we're going to jump into the main bulk of the episode, which is the review. And as previously stated, we're going to be reviewing Remembrance of the Daleks and diving into that one. Remembrance of the Daleks was the first serial of season 25 of Doctor Who. The story setting brought the Doctor back to 76 Totter's Lane in the year 1963, where the series began in an unearthly child. And rather appropriately for the air date of this podcast, because that first episode aired on this very day, 62 years ago. Yes. We're not recording on that day, but it will be going out on Doctor Who's 62nd anniversary, this episode, because it happens to be on the exact day. So, interesting. So, with that out of the way, I'm going to pass over to my good friend DK, who should be seated here.
Yep.
I'm going to activate the time-space visualizer, and we're going to hit behind the scenes. So, DK, over to you.
That meant that you could just tune in and see any event in history.
Yes, that's exactly what this is.
No, Doctor, you're kidding.
Yep. As with the talents of Wen Chiang, some members of its guest cast were deemed interesting enough to justify the creation of a Big Finish audio series. In 2012, Countermeasures continued the adventures of the serial's group Captain Gilmore, Professor Jensen, and Alison Williams. Now, Remembrance was the final televised appearance of the Daleks and Davros until BBC Wales revival, although both would frequently recur in other media. It continued a narrative of chronological confrontations between the Doctor and Davros that had begun in Genesis of the Daleks and included Destiny, Resurrection, and Revelation of the Daleks. It also concluded the Dalek Civil War story arc, which had previously spanned throughout Resurrection and Revelation. At the time of broadcast, it unambiguously showed the on-screen destruction of the Dalek homeworld Skaro. This act was largely forgotten by future Doctor Who writers. An explanation for Skaro's continued existence is given in The Witcher's Familiar, as Davros explains that the planet has been reconstructed. Ace orders 4 bacon sandwiches and a cup of coffee whilst in the cafe. Ironically, Sophie Aldred is a vegan. This is the first instance of a Dalek levitating up a staircase on screen. However, Davros appears to have the power of flight in Revelation of the Daleks, achieved with the same special effects. In the chase, a Dalek is seen to elevate from sand, and it's implied they can move between the decks of the Marie Celeste. This is the first televised story to show the full interior of a Dalek. An Imperial Dalek drone's inner workings are visible while attempting to materialize in the basement of Coal Hill School. This marks possibly the first time that Doctor Who has referred to itself as a series within the context of the show. When Ace turns on the television as she leaves the boarding house in part 2, and the announcer says, "This is BBC television." The time is 5:15, and Saturday viewing continues with an adventure in the new science fiction series before being cut off. Interestingly, Bernard Quatermass and the British Rocket Group are both mentioned by a worried Rachel and Alison. However, it's unclear in the context of the show whether it's a pop culture or intertextual reference. And this story has the distinction of being ranked as Doctor Who magazine readers' favourite 7th Doctor story in all 4 of their major polls in 1998, 2009, 2014 and 2023.
Awesome. And is that behind the scenes?
Yep.
Yeah, I picked up on the Quatermass reference. That was pretty cool. And I have to agree. I think the special effect of the Dalek attempting to beam in, so to speak, and the inner being visible was really cool. I remember being impressed with that from the moment we saw it as well. So, yeah, cool. Well, if that's dealt with, then we have no other questions or thoughts about that, I'm assuming. Guys, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Not at the moment.
Cool. Well, we'll jump into breaking down the different sections that we always break our reviews into. So by all means, just follow along if you're listening and you're new to us. We'll start with the writing and the plot. I do have some things to tell you about that before we dive into questions and discussion. First of all, this story was notable for a marked change in character for the 7th Doctor, who had previously maintained a jolly and comedic demeanour. Here, a Machiavellian side to his personality was brought to light beneath the light-hearted exterior, and he began to reveal a manipulative nature that persisted into the rest of his era. Along with this, clues were also given that the Doctor had a secret past on Gallifrey, the first glimpse of the so-called Cartmel master plan. The Doctor tells Ace the story of Omega and how he and Rassilon founded Time Lord Society. He momentarily slips when talking about the prototype of the Hand of Omega, implying his presence at its creation. The original script called for the Doctor to destroy the Imperial Dalek that ambushes him and Ace in the school with the anti-tank rocket and to attack the Supreme Dalek with a, quote, finger of Omega. Oh my, in a parody of Western showdowns. These instances were altered after Sylvester McCoy cited the Doctor's dislike of weapons. I think we'll pause there because I have got some other stuff, but I wanted to kind of start with discussing that. What do we think about the 7th Doctor and his characterization in this episode? A lot of people have, I think, said that it's the first time we truly see the real 7th Doctor or the preferred 7th Doctor turn up, and certainly a streak that continues throughout the rest of the 8 episodes of him being a bit of a chess master type, I guess, and manipulating events for better or worse. So, Cliff, I'm going to come to you first. Any thoughts on this new version of the 7th Doctor? What do you think of it, and are you a fan?
I'm very much a fan. I do enjoy a lot of season 24. Ironically, I missed season 24 when I was a kid. I don't know why. I thought I was at Cub Scouts maybe, but that doesn't work out with the timings. Maybe my mum was just watching Coronation Street, and maybe it was still bedtime quite early for me because I was quite young. I don't know. But I really like it. It's clear that quite some time has passed between Dragonfire and Remembrance. I think Big Finish have just done a box set which explores like Ace's real first few stories, because I love the chemistry between Ace and the Doctor. You know, they're comfortable with each other. You know, they can wind each other up without it feeling like bullying either way. You know, it feels like a proper friendship. And and I think that, I mean, the technicalities of season 24, it was kind of, I think the whole kind of will they, won't they of season 24, it was all a bit of a rush. And JNT didn't have a script editor and didn't have any scripts, and went to Pip and Jane because they were the reliable people in his orbit at the time that he remembered most recently. So they did Time and the Rani, and they kind of set up the Doctor. And the main focus in that first season is a rush of let's make a contrast with Colin, because a new Doctor should always be a contrast with the other. So this is a smaller, lighter, puckish, playful, sillier Doctor than the rather serious and sometimes overbearing Sixth Doctor. And I think you can just tell that they've had a little bit of time to actually properly come up with a Seventh Doctor in that time gap, whereas I think season 24 was a bit of a rush just to make something different.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think, as you say, for want of a better word, the season 24 Seventh Doctor is a little bit clownish. And a bit, like you said, just trying to differentiate from Colin Baker's Doctor. But I much prefer the manipulator Doctor, I guess, if you want to call it that, the version that we get from now onwards. And I love the idea of all of the ideas of the Cartmel master plan, even the really nerdy stuff that we never saw on screen, but went into the extended stuff, the loom and all that kind of nonsense, and the Doctor's importance. I kind of love that. I think that's one of the reasons I kind of don't mind the Timeless Child storyline as much as some, because I see it as kind of a spiritual successor of sorts to the Cartmel master plan idea of, yeah, we all know the Doctor's more important than just another Time Lord, as the deleted scene in this episode tells us. So, yeah. Yeah, over to you, Jill. What do you think of this new version of the Seventh Doctor?
Well, it also, the big thing is Sylvester McCoy just feels much more comfortable in the role. He's got it. He's, before you felt that he wasn't quite sure where he was going, whereas this is me feeling safe. He's got a companion or a friend in Sophie Aldred who they clearly get on well together. They feel comfortable. He doesn't feel threatened we're not going, even if he's not going to be sacked tomorrow, basically, is the feeling.
Yeah.
He's there going, oh, thank God, I got through my first year. No one sacked me. This is going to be fun. And you get that feeling of fun. You get that feeling of life coming back to the programme in many ways. And people having sat down and really thought about what they wanted to do with it. Even if they don't end up doing it, you can feel that they've gone, oh, this is what I'd like to do. And they've actually thought about it.
Yeah, okay. That's fair enough, I think. Yeah, I agree. I think, like I said, I've said this about a lot of media, but I do think it's nice that you have these things planned out, and it was nice that, Andrew Cartmel clearly had a roadmap. He wasn't just making it up on the fly as the script editor, and, he maybe could have taught something many years later to the people that made the Star Wars sequel trilogy, but that's a different argument for a different day. So, yeah. DK, what about you? What do you make of this newer version of the Seventh Doctor and this new characterization?
I completely adore it. It was obviously the basis for expanded media going forwards during the wilderness years.
Yeah.
And as Jill said, it looked like Sylvester had great fun with this new characterization. And importantly, I mean, it felt like a breath of fresh air to the show.
Yeah.
Because you had, let's be honest, it had kind of been coasting for several years. And the future was kind of always in doubt around this period. And so to introduce this new kind of backstory, it genuinely felt as though they were bringing some of the mystery back to the character.
Yes.
And you kind of wanted to see where it was going, not just for the everyday stories, but this arc, because you were finding out more things about the Doctor himself before it became, run of the mill as in recent years. And it was a gorgeous stepping on point. And it really, for a lot of people, myself included, who had got a little tired of the, how should we say, the panto elements that had been creeping out over the last several years.
No, it isn't.
It reinvigorated my love for the show. Yeah. And it is that kind of element and those kind of stories where there wasn't just one layer, they were multi-layered, apart from obviously things like the pit and transit, as Jill said earlier. It really breathed some life into the show and allowed for a lot of concepts, a lot of branching off of things that wouldn't have been thought of before. And I think they did it. I just think if not for Cartman's master plan, there would have been so much lost. And I'm not sure if you would have had expanded media in some sense. It's Derek Eyre with these kind of things, but I don't think it would have garnered enough interest as the direction it took with the Virgin novels.
Yeah,
it's kind of like because as a story, it's not an unusual story per se. I mean, there's unusual aspects to it, but somehow, compared to the previous 3 years, suddenly it just feels like it's got so much more energy, and it looks less cheap, even though it's not less cheap. It's so stupid thing to say, but it just feels like it's alive again, like it knows how much budget it's got, how it knows that it's cheap, and it's willing to embrace it and go, well, this is how you make a cheap show.
Yeah. I think for me, as a kind of somebody who's a fan of science fiction and kind of hates when people think that the only way you can make it is to look down on it, I really appreciated that the show had started taking itself seriously again, instead of it wasn't all tongue in cheek. I mean, even a lot of Sylvester's first season, I think, to me is kind of guilty of that, of we know we're a bit panto, so we're leaning into it. And I'm like, no, go the other way. Take it seriously. And I think because you do, as you say, things look just more polished, and it makes the whole production just look better. I mean, there's still moments of that, and I think Ace, unfortunately, the character of Ace has aged terribly. So you kind of can't watch without sniggering as she kind of has her boombox where she's walking around and talking about how this era has no street cred and stuff like that. It's kind of it is very of its time, and even but I think even the little kind of moments of camp and stuff work. The little joke when, she's saying, well, if you don't like it, you drive, and then they go through a tunnel and it just flashes and they've switched positions. That could have been terrible, and many other stories would have been. It would have been played with a really comical, a clown whistle or something, but they don't overly egg it. So instead you just laugh and move on,
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. Cliff, I was going to ask you what you thought generally about the idea, because it seems to me in a weird way almost counterproductive of what we like about the character, yet it somehow works, that the Doctor isn't reacting to events, he's actively manipulating them. So he's not going somewhere where there's I'm now here, there's something I need to rescue or something I need to solve. He's actually pushing the narrative forward. And to that end, do you have a favorite moment in this particular story that represents that, and or that you kind of at the time were like, wow, that was unexpected but brilliant, perhaps?
I mean, there's a couple. So the whole kind of key of the Doctor having this grand plan, and then he says, I didn't expect 2 factions of Daleks to turn up. So I like the fact that it's a plan that has gone wrong. And so he's he spends his whole time, he thought he had this brilliant plan, and now he's got to try and stop people getting killed. And of course, lots of military people get killed, and his companion's heart gets broken. And, so it all goes spectacularly wrong for him. And I think that's kind of the right way of doing it. So I think that's really nice. And, a lot of the Saywood stories, I love a lot of Davison and Colin Baker, but the Doctor is very much, you could write out the Doctor and the stories would go exactly the same way in a lot of Davison and Colin Baker stories. Yeah. Whereas in this is driven by the Doctor, and it goes wrong, but he fusses around, and this grand plan turns into the Doctor doing his usual kind of improvising and faffing to get to the end point, which I love.
Yeah. You've touched on a couple of things I wanted to kind of deal with the writing themes without hopefully taking too long. That being the kind of with the anniversary themes, and not the anniversary themes I was going to kind of ask about, and also kind of the Daleks, because I think this is probably their best story in a while. That's probably fair to say. Even as somebody who I enjoy Revelation of the Daleks quite a bit, but it's not Remembrance, and we've already discussed, Cliff, when you were on last time, what we don't think particularly about Resurrection of the Daleks, and the less said about Destiny, the better, perhaps. So it is probably it's probably the best Dalek story and the best use of them in a while. And so that is one thing, but also the idea that, like you said, it's supposedly it was toned down, the idea of going back to where the show began, because the writers learned that, they'd already done that in Attack of the Cybermen, as you mentioned. But it is kind of central that, the Hand of Omega is a thing that we've not heard of before, but it is something that the first Doctor is clearly responsible for having hidden back in 1963, when he was first there. They go to great pains to say, I thought it was an old bloke with white hair, this Doctor you're talking about. So it definitely was the Hartnell Doctor. There's no doubt about it. And, Coal Hill School, the IM Foreman junkyard, and all that kind of stuff. The elements clearly are there. So
the French Revolution book.
And the French Revolution book, actually, that Ace picks up the same one. So, but yeah, DK, because you haven't spoken for a while, what do you think of either of these things? The way that it, do you think the story handles the anniversary, sort of going back to the beginning idea well? And do you agree that it's the best use of the Daleks for a while? And do you agree that you like the way they're used in this story?
I do. Unlike you guys, I wasn't a big fan of Revelation. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I wasn't really a big fan of Colin Baker's era at all. So, yeah, and then before that we had Resurrection. Your mileage may vary. Yeah, so it was nice to actually come across a Dalek story that was reasonably well written, it had some good internal logic, had some good stakes, some decent characterization, and not only that, but they did, as you say, they did put those little kind of Easter eggs in for long-time fans with regards to the previous Doctor and things like that. But it wasn't, as Cliff mentioned, it wasn't as in your face, and it didn't treat the audience, like they needed to be spoon-fed, and it didn't do it because we'd already moved back past that point, kind of thing, of the Panto era, and so it wasn't done in necessarily a let's have a wink to the audience kind of thing. It played it serious from the start to the finish, and I think it did really well. And then to throw in those extra elements of the Doctor, which, the master plan aside, after this could have just pretty much been ignored. But when you have that scene where they're talking about the Hand of Omega, and McCoy just says, and didn't we have trouble with the prototype? And Ace says, we, and, he thinks on it. He goes, they. It just adds so much to it. I think it's demonstrative of the last couple of seasons as a whole, and I think it is such a shame that we didn't get more of this McCoy Aldred pairing going forward.
Yeah, but I think you're right. That is why that became the kind of the pairing that they ran with in the New Adventures and did a lot with, for better or worse, because there's now 4 different continuities as to how they actually parted or whatever. But that's going to happen when you haven't got a single narrative like the show. So, Jill, I kind of haven't asked you to give your thoughts on the anniversary setting, going back to the beginning, and again.
I mean it's they don't over egg the pudding. It's there if you want it. You don't have to know it. It doesn't really matter. It could be anywhere. It's as you say, picking up a French Revolution book. I mean, that means nothing to your normal person, but it doesn't hurt. It doesn't take away from the story, which I felt a few earlier ones had been a bit clunky and in your face, whereas this is very subtle, and they managed to spell Foreman correctly, I believe, this time round.
Oh, no, it's the other way around. They got it wrong this time.
Well, they got it wrong this time. Oh, balls. Never mind, one or the other. I never could spell. But luckily, it's on the screen for less time than you can shake a fair size stick at it. So somehow I mean, it doesn't feel wildly anniversary. I mean, I always remember at the time thinking, well, this is the shittest 25th anniversary ever. Bit like, which is probably why I'm quite all right with the 60th anniversary stories. They're just as shit as the 25th anniversary stories.
Well, the official 25th story was Silver Nemesis.
I know. Well, I mean, that's even moving on.
Yeah. So, but what did you think of the Daleks in this? Do you agree that it's kind of their best use for a while? And
by a country mile. I mean, I love Revelation, to be fair, but it's not for the Daleks. But this is an excellent story, and I cannot state how much watching it at the time makes a lot of difference, because Because we really were desperate for a decent story by that point, and having one just made your heart sing, really, which will, makes it a lot fonder in memory than it probably deserves. But I'm going to go with it.
No, I mean that's fair enough. Whatever you bring to the table, it's understandable. But I think the story has enough of a reputation that it's not, it's not an uncommon opinion that it's
not a munter. Yes.
So, but there's 2 Dalek factions, as we know, and the Doctor manipulates them both. So efficiency, yay. So first of all, which design do you prefer? The Renegade kind of classics or the white and gold Imperials? Do you like the twist about Davros and the Dalek battle computer? The way that they ask John Leeson to voice the battle computer so that it sounds like Davros before revealing it's a little girl, and the Emperor Dalek is then revealed to be Davros, shocking I think approximately one person in the audience, maybe. So what are your favorite factions, and what do you make of those particular twists? And the final question, the Doctor clearly murders Davros and an entire planet. Well, certainly the planet anyway. Davros probably escapes. So is it a hit or a miss for his moral code? And do we kind of mind that? And again, Cliff, I'm going to come to you with all those 3 big questions.
Oh, I'll start with the easy one. So I absolutely adore the Imperial Dalek livery. I've got some old school friends who whenever there's one posted by a Dalek builder that I know on Facebook, and someone will make a grumpy sort of observation that they don't like it because a lot of the proportions are different. The toys don't really reflect that. So the toys are lovely. But if you actually kind of drill down to the Imperial Dalek, it's an entirely new build. The way the slats are molded, the skirt angles, the neck bin, the lovely sort of flashing ears. I love all of that. I think they look amazing. There's something to be said for, that kind of transitionary experience of becoming a proper Doctor Who fan for me. So I'd seen Doctor Who, I'd liked it, I'd enjoyed it, I got some bits, but then that whole kind of Remembrance experience of really becoming a fan and discovering Doctor Who magazine and all that stuff around the time, they made a wonderful impression. I think the Imperial Daleks look absolutely gorgeous. And the Renegades are solid, they look classic. Obviously, it's a lighter shade of grey. There's a few little design tweaks, but I think they look a lot cleaner and smarter than the Destiny and Resurrection ones that are very tatty in a sort of, I've seen people sort of say, oh, well, there's been around for years, it's in war. And it's no, that's broken bits of wood and dowel sticking out and paint flecks. That's not quite the same as battle damage, So if all of those Daleks have been properly greased up and dirtied down, like the special weapons Dalek, you could have got away with that. But the actual Dalek props, they look like wooden things. They weren't as good as the 60s, like the Death to the Daleks and Genesis models and the 60s ones. So yeah, I love the Imperials. I think the Renegades look pretty solid. I know a lot of people sneer at them wobbling around a little bit on the tarmac. To be honest, when I was a kid, that didn't bother me. I was like, wobbly wheels make sense. It's fine. They probably use a lot of power to float and fly upstairs, so they probably don't want to fly all the time. Maybe it would have been cool if they'd have been hovering over there, but I'm okay with that. I love Davros. I think obviously Davros is amazing in Genesis. I had the audio cassette of Genesis around the same time, which I talked about on Cy Hart's podcast. That was my thing that I brought for the Precious Things podcast. So yeah, I think Davros had kind of had his day as being the focus because he's the focus of Genesis, but then he becomes the focus in Destiny and he's the focus in Resurrection. And it's kind of, they wanted to write for Davros because, he's a human-ish character, he can talk with a personality. And, there's a lot of very funny, clever, dark stuff in Revelation with him. But I always wanted the Daleks to be forefront as a kid anyway. And I think it's great that Remembrance brings the Daleks to the forefront and gives you a little bit of Davros at the end. I think that was a really nice way of doing that. Because, he's still there and he still gets a little bit of delicious villainy. And every single line of Davros is quotable for me. Burnt into my brain. And that reveal, I don't think I'd seen the 60s comic strips, but, I later learned to appreciate the whole bobblehead dome emperor was the thing in the 60s comic strips. I thought that's, in hindsight, that's very, very clever. And I think I don't know. I think it's a culmination of lots. This is not the Doctor's first rodeo with the Daleks, and they have time travel. There is a line entering Scaro's time zone.
Yes.
The Doctor has already wiped out the Daleks on Scaro at some point in the future twice. So at this point, it's like, well, one more.
That's kind of assume that there aren't any Thals on the planet, though.
Yeah, I think the general assumption is the Thals have buggered off at that point. They're a spacefaring race in Planet of the Daleks, so they're probably gone. But yeah, I mean, it seems like a sort of timey-wimey natural culmination. The Daleks have time travel. The Daleks, if they had the Hand of Omega, they would lay waste and enslave and destroy the entire universe. And I think it's a little bit more nuanced than some people have said. And of course, we get a kind of shit explanation of why Scaro is back in the books.
I was going to say, yeah,
that's terrible.
I didn't look yeah, they've explained it differently in the expanded media than the TV show. But I think Moffat's kind of, we just rebuilt it is enough. Have a hand wave.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing is ever gone forever in Doctor Who if it doesn't need to be. So I kind of think, again, it sends the message that the Doctor is proactive and involved in, kind of stopping evil, which is the fundamental thing. It's Doctor Who has gone back to being properly more good versus evil rather than kind of, sometimes it feels like it was flirting with the shades of grey to not quite Game of Thrones levels, but for Saturday tea time. So it's a real assertion of it's gods versus gods as well. It's setting up the Doctor as a powerful entity, which is, I think, I like the mystery of it. So it's a very kind of the whole kind of the Cartmel master plan version of the Doctor is still slathered in ambiguity and mystery, and it could still be a shaggy dog story, which is nice. Ultimately it could be the Doctor fussing through and being a bit of a Wizard of Oz illusionist. He could be building himself up to be this, but he's still saving the day with a bit of string and a tin can sometimes at the end. So I think the Cartmel master plan is quite nice because there is a huge amount of ambiguity there, and it leaves room. Completely ignore it if you don't like it as well, which is nice. Whereas some later stuff is a little bit too direct with its PowerPoint presentations and stuff, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I'm okay with it all. I think it's all very, very well executed in Remembrance.
And I do like, at least, that the Doctor, like all of the incarnations, even the kind of the modern ones, when the Doctor's doing these things, he kind of does give them a chance that once he's finished with his angry rants to Davros, he is like, don't do this, you'll regret it. And it's kind of on Davros himself that it's like, no, I will do it. Yeah, now you're starting to get worried. And then, the Doctor even says, you've done this to yourself. You fooled yourself. You do realize that, you idiot, more or less. So
exactly.
Yeah. But so yeah, Jill, did you have a favourite out of the two factions of Daleks?
No, I love them both. It's like having two children. You've got to. I mean, there's bits you like about one more than the other, but in the end, there's bits about the other that you like more than. And you love them equally. They are Daleks, and I love them.
Fair enough. And were you surprised at all with the twists of the Dalek battle computer little girl and then Davros as the Emperor?
No, not even at the time. No.
So that was really ineffective of John Leeson trying to fool you then.
Yeah, no, it was a beautiful thing, but yeah, creepy girl hanging around. She's got something to do with the plot. Where else could she be? And yeah, no, I don't think anyone, as you said in the beginning, I don't think anyone went, fuck me, it's Davros. I mean, no one did.
As soon as the Emperor Dalek appears at the end of part,
you all went, oh, Davros.
It's like, well, we know who this is. The little girl thing I was a little surprised by, but it should have been obvious by the fact that she's clearly a freaking Sith, given that she can, channel fucking lightning when she's removed.
Yeah, I mean, they do set her up as weird girl from the very beginning. I mean, I mean, when the Doctor first tries to talk to her and he says, "Oh, you don't talk to strangers," it's probably, and then she goes to the boys' toilets for no readily apparent reason.
I think if I was more familiar with the other 80s Dalek stories at the time, which I was a little bit too young to remember, I think I would have bought in more to the, oh my God, it's Davros, oh my God, it's Davros thing of the battle computer. So I was always kind of like, oh, the battle computer must be its own new thing. But even so, when it came around with the girl sitting in there, I remember being like, oh, cool, that's a cool twist. That makes sense. So I think the whole thing is like set up and rewarded quite nicely for younger viewers. It's quite clear storytelling, but it's a nice little twist. And it was years before I noticed that it was John Leeson doing the voice of the battle computer, which was a lovely thing for the 25th anniversary, because it's like, oh, we've sort of got K9 back.
No, I didn't know that myself till I was researching this, and then I read, like I said, that he was advised to make the battle computer voice sound like Davros to try and trick the audience. And I mean, it worked on me. I remember thinking, oh, is this Davros the very first time I saw it? And then it's revealed as the little girl, and then, as you say, the Emperor Dalek rolls in, and I'm like, well, this is Davros, obviously. You know? So, but yeah, I mean, it's also a good bit of writing and a good bit of kind of setting up how sinister the Daleks are. That it's like they've slaved a little girl because they need her imagination because they don't have it, and it's like, oh, that is twisted.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bit of a shame production design, only extends to the average Tesla orb that you find in, every high school and science museum. But on the three questions that I just asked.
I remember, I think there was a poster given away in Doctor Who magazine at the time with the new Imperial Daleks, and I had that on my wall for the longest time. So yeah, I really enjoyed the new design. I think I was thrown a little like you the first time I saw this, believing that the what turned out to be the little girl would be Davros.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it was revealed not to be the Emperor Dalek, anyone in their gran would have just thought, yeah, because yeah, you're not going to leave Davros out. He's one of the biggest.
Also, doesn't make any effort to disguise his voice.
No, it's so yeah. I mean, you expected the little girl to be Davros, and for me, I mean, I'm a bit of a basic bitch, so it did kind of throw me the first time I watched it. But then when that turned out not to be Davros, you knew as soon as the Emperor quotation marks turned up that
yeah, that's fair enough. Well, I've said my piece on most of those things. I will say it. For some reason, I just don't love the white and gold Daleks as much as the others. I don't mind them, but I much prefer the kind of classic look of the Renegade Daleks. And they get my favorite moments because I think the way that first one is built up is almost reminiscent of the way that they deal with the Dalek in 2005's Dalek. Like, it is a huge threat, even though there's just a single Dalek there, and it's kind of just mincing through countermeasures, and the Doctor's like, no, take this crap seriously, for crying out loud. And it's portrayed as an actual threat as opposed to, it's only one of them. And the bit at the end when the Doctor convinces the one remaining one to basically like kill yourself, there's nobody left, was also a really cool moment for me. So I think I lean to yeah, well, I did want to touch on one last thing on the writing before we move on, even though I know we're pressed for time. So anyway, just to kind of start you off, Andrew Cartmel was particularly proud of the scene where Ace finds a no-colours sign in the window of Mrs. Smith's boarding house. When it was screened to the BBC head of drama, he rewound the tape because he'd missed the sequence due to a phone call. He felt that Ace should have torn the sign down, and Cartmel agreed it was a missed opportunity. Andrew Morgan wanted to cut the scene, but Sylvester McCoy and Sophie Aldred argued it was the essence of the story, as it was about racism. Observing that Terry Nation had always intended the Daleks to be a metaphor for the Nazis, Ben Aronovich, the story's actual writer, drew upon the burgeoning racist and fascist sentiment in early 60s England, and sadly 2025 England. He was keen that this story not present an overly romanticized depiction of the period. So yeah, I mean, this story, it is set in the year Doctor Who began, but it is perhaps a bit more critical than just nostalgic, and does deal with like the racism and xenophobia that would be present in 63 Britain in a way that I think was, for me, surprising. But it is a kind of nice parallel of the Daleks' obsession with purity, and that the two factions hate each other because they are differently mutated or whatever. It kind of feeds into that idea. So just general thoughts about you guys, from you guys about that, and about like the Mike Smith character, who is sadly more and more prevalent these days as we get reverse back into what seems like the 1940s to 60s again. And just do you think that the themes are an interesting way of looking at things? And related to that, it's kind of semi-related to that, but also, a lot of people's favorite scene, myself included, is probably the scene with the Doctor discussing consequences of actions with Joseph Marcel, pre-Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and the kind of sugar in the tea situation. So what do you also think of that scene, which, it doesn't touch so much on the racist element, but it's got a little bit there about, if the sugar thing hadn't started, I would never have been brought, I would have been an African, etc. So, yeah, general thoughts on all of that, and I'm just going to throw it open to whoever wants to address that first.
Yeah, that's a lot. I think I love the Joseph Marcel scene. It's a little bit of character pausing that again drives the plot and again talks about the theme. It's writing that does 3 or 4 things at once. Which is almost like it's sort of in the modern series when we talk about, the new show focuses more on character. It doesn't manage to multitask in the same way, and it doesn't have time in the episodes to actually do that. This is a breathing space that so much of New Who would benefit hugely from, and it shows rather than tells as it tells. It's working on a level that kids can find accessible, but you don't feel talked down to if you're a bit older, which I rather love. I was looking into the political situation. There's a lovely line Gilmore says that given the current sensitivity of the current government, it was said we take over. And so I kind of looked in. So you've kind of got the Cold War brewing. You had Hugh Gateskill died. You had Profumo. Macmillan resigned. You got a year away from a general election. And then you had the Bristol bus boycott, where basically the Bristol bus company refused to employ Black and Asian people until there was a massive, boycott of the buses by the people of, and it lasted 4 months. So, the kind of 1963, it's the perfect time for these themes. It kind of fits even more than I realized before.
Definitely, yeah. But I do like that. Like I said, that it's not just like, this is when the Doctor Who began, wasn't it? A great nostalgic time,
Yeah.
It's addressing the problems that existed there, and again, using the Daleks. It makes sense that they are that allegory. So I think in a Dalek story, it's really interesting that they did that, and it makes complete sense with the story.
Yeah, to slightly sort of, I hope this isn't too off topic. I'll try to keep it as quick as possible. But I remember going to see the Barbie movie, and for a long part of the Barbie movie,
thought it was Remembrance.
There's this absolute love and respect for this toy that meant so much to so many girls, and then suddenly it does have that critical edge of but what about the negative aspects of it and society when it's made and all that kind of stuff, and you're sort of I remember at one point thinking, I wish we'd had this sort of thing for the Transformers films instead of Michael Bay's blowing up shit stuff. And it's nice that the Dalek, it's not just Daleks blowing up shit, although as a 7-year-old, Daleks blowing up shit is amazing. Daleks blowing up other Daleks and blowing up shit is amazing. There's this other stuff going, so there you go. Doctor Who is like the Remembrance of the Daleks is like the Barbie movie. No. The other thing I do want to talk about Mike, because Mike was from the Isle of Man. It's not where I was born, but it's where I grew up. So I was living on the Isle of Man when I first saw Remembrance of the Daleks. I had friends from my local group. I think Paul and Dave Smith from my local group went to school possibly in the same year as Dursley McLinden. Which was rather special. And there's this gorgeous documentary on the Blu-ray box set, which has a lot of it in the Gaiety Theatre. We're talking to friends of Dursley's and talking about his time in amateur dramatics and the theatre in the Isle of Man, and then moving to London. And then, of course, you have the story of It's a Sin, where, he sort of goes off, and it's, the lead character is very much paralleled with Dursley, and even is in a Dalek story. I think Mike is, as you say, he's a terrible kind of, charming, slick, person that Ace falls in love with, and then turns out to just have these horrific views. And there's a deleted scene which I think pushes it a bit too far, where they're in the van and they're like, "Oh, don't worry, Ace isn't an alien." And he's like, "Well, I wouldn't like her to be foreign." And that's the point where he's like, "Oh, okay, everything's been fairly subtle, not the most subtle writing in the world, but fairly subtle again compared to a lot of what you get in the new series. And that was a bit of an on the nose kind of line. It was like, ooh, but I think it builds that he's a bit dodgy. It kind of seeds you in very gradually that, oh, actually no, he's not as nice. And there's that whole bit where Ace comes down with her hair down, and in the next morning, and he's got this banter with her, and he's like, oh, this is lad's work, have dinner ready kind of stuff. And later on he's like, Ace, when all this is over, do you fancy going to the pictures sometime? Which comes a little bit later, but already in that earlier scene you're like, did they shag? Did they kiss? Did they stay up all night nearly shagging, nearly kissing? How far has this gone? It's ambiguous. They've done something, haven't they? There's chemistry there, and Dursley's very good looking, and Ace is very good looking, and it's set up to be this sort of kind of romance that just goes horribly wrong and tragically wrong in many ways. And I really like the way that it deals with him, because he doesn't get arrested straight away because he's still a useful soldier, which is interesting. They find out he's a bad 'un, and there's a few minutes where he's still running around with guns because there's an immediate problem of Daleks nearby. And then when it's all calmed down, it's like, right, now I'm placing you under arrest.
This is what I say, that kind of like, it's depressing, but it is true that this parallels a lot of what we're currently seeing here in the UK now, because is clearly kind of racist and stuff, but also on a level that you would probably just say was misguided, or some people would agree with, especially nowadays. So that when he's saying things like, obviously he didn't know it was the Daleks, but he wanted to kind of side with Ratcliffe's organization, because you've got to look after your own, and you can't have people coming over here and taking resources. You've got to do better for yourself. And it's just, he could be friggin' Nigel Farage that he's going to kind of work for, and it wouldn't be any different. It's the same arguments we're seeing decades later, but it's interesting that the show touches on that, and the show does not shy away from saying, no, this isn't cool. This guy is wrong. This isn't, and it's just like the Daleks. It's all about purity of your own, and it's stupid, Yeah.
But the message is there that it's, the fascism is terrible, and that is wrong, and that is bad. But the charm is the dangerous thing. Exactly. The fact that he's charming. And then, he dies, there's the funeral, and his colleagues still go to the funeral. If this was modern Doctor Who, they would probably make a joke about him dying at this, the bit at the end of the Robot Revolution, where it's like, this guy gets reduced to sperm. Whereas in Lucky Day, they let the fascist off. It's like, new Doctor Who isn't woke enough. Why isn't it more woke? They let the fascist off, whereas the kind of the incel-y, obviously guy with issues is just brutally, but he's terrible. He's bad as well. It's interesting. So it ends with the funeral. So it ends with death. This is the character who has died was a villain. But his colleagues still go to the funeral. Well, we've met his mum, we've seen his family, and the Doctor and Ace are looking like they're going to attend the funeral, and then they stop at the door and they think it's time to go. And I think that's perfect, because it's like, this was a very dangerous person, but it's like, in that society, they were friends, they were family. There's still going to be people who will go to the funeral.
Exactly. You have to. Sorry. I mean, everyone is loved, is what I want to say here.
No, I do think it's worth noting that there's one of the Big Finish stories or something, one of the expanded media, that states that the funeral you see at the end of Remembrance isn't for Mike. It's the other fallen soldiers, and Mike didn't get a military funeral. He was buried quietly with only his mum attending, because he was kind of shamed. And I'm like, they kind of deal with that very differently.
Yeah. I mean, that's valid, but I think the original interpretation is interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I find the original interpretation more interesting, certainly. I mean,
for sure. But, Anyway, DK, did you have any thoughts on this before I quickly move us along?
No. I think everything's been kind of covered.
Yeah, sorry to steamroller you a bit there, but I will come to you for some more things next time. So briefly moving on to the direction, I don't have a lot to say, except that Andrew Cartmel watched previous Dalek stories for research and felt that only Destiny of the Daleks made the creatures look menacing, apparently. He decided to use similar shots and shared his ideas with Andrew Morgan, the director, shoot low and lots of ceilings. He also told Ben Aronovich that there must be no capturing and no corridors. And I don't have much to say because when the direction's good, you don't tend to notice it. I like the way that the final showdowns are intercut. I've made that note, the way that it shows you the Doctor and Davros and Ace and Mike are kind of cut together. And yeah, other than that, I don't have much to say. I mean, I can get into the differences between the special edition, but suffice to say, it's just mainly new and improved special effects and a lot of the deleted scenes that we've mentioned that I think don't improve, like cutting out the meta reference or adding the web on the nose racism reference. So that's why I would say the special edition version of the story, whether it's director approved or not, I don't think is as good as the original. I think that's the best version you're going to get. So yeah, any thoughts on the direction, DK, from you then?
No, as you say, it when it's done competently, you tend to not notice. But I think the direction works in a sense that they do look menacing, and anything that is hampered by the low budget is dealt with in a way that it still looks as impressive as possible for the time.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing you really notice is you know it's cheap, but somehow they've managed to cut around the really shit bits.
Yeah, fair enough. Any thoughts, Cliff, or shall I move us on?
Very briefly, I mean, I know it's in certain elements, it's obvious that you see 80s tower blocks and elements where it's not as 60s as you might will with a huge budget, but I think everything's acted so well and with pace that you don't care. And I think there's a lovely balance of the grey, dreary kind of early 60s. I think there was an interview where Ben Aronovich said it was 1963 was more like the fag end of the 50s than really the big swinging 60s, you know, so it's not a swinging 60s story.
Which is the big problem with the what's it called? Damn it, the one that the couple of years ago. Thank you. Yeah.
But what's really nice is that there's a little bit of that color and sort of almost pop art sensibility in the Imperial Dalek shuttlecraft and in some of the Renegade Daleks, like the screens and things like that. So there's like little moments of color that pop out. What I also like is the image of Ratcliffe striding around the cemetery until he finds the gravestone with just the Omega symbol on. It kind of reminds me of the Avengers as well. It's got that sort of 60s vibe there. So I think there's lots of nice little touches that kind of respect both older Doctor Who and like general kind of 60s vibe TV. And yeah, you know, but it's the main thing is just the pace and also the Pertwee sense. One of the things I wanted to say was that because Rachel is so Liz Shaw coded and the Brigadier, Group Captain Gilmore is so Brigadier coded, I wanted to look at exactly when Spearhead from Space came out on VHS. And rather interesting. So Remembrance was shot in April 1988, and Spearhead from Space came out in February 1988, which might have been too late for the script, possibly, or you know, if it was very close to making, very close to the script being finished. But for certain elements of the aesthetic, I'm almost certain that Cartmel and Aronovich and Andrew Morgan would have watched Spearhead from Space because there's such a strong Pertwee vibe to a lot of it, which I love. You know, so it kind of deals with Hartnell, you know, unearthly child themes, but then it has a great sort of Pertwee unit sensibility.
That also explains the lingering close-ups of the dead faces, because of course that happens a lot in Spearhead. No, it doesn't. It happens a lot in Spearhead. They do quite a lot of shocked dead, and you've got Ratcliffe and Mike and someone else. I can't remember who the other person is, and you get quite a close shot of them shocked dead.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. But no, I was going to say, like, Countermeasures is clearly a proto-unit kind of thing because, you know, 63, they didn't know that unit would necessarily have existed. They didn't want to touch on that. But there is stuff that thankfully didn't make it beyond script stage where they were going to say that a young, you know, Alistair Lethbridge Stewart had worked for Countermeasures, which would have completely screwed continuity. So it's kind of good that it's not there. But there was clearly going to be an attempt to try and link the two organizations before they thought better of it. So, yeah. Definitely cool. Well, I'm going to move to the acting next because, as I say, I want to try and get through this as quick as we can. Some of the actors involved. So Mr. McCoy's favourite scenes are the one in the cafe where the Doctor weighs on the decisions he must make, and Ace finding the no-coloured sign. No surprise there. Sophie Aldred did many of her own stunts, bonding with her new stunt coordinator, Tipping. What a name. She found the experience terrifying at first. She was also trained in firing guns for the scene where she shoots a Dalek. She also accidentally sustained a mild injury when jumping through the window after damaging the Imperial Dalek with the baseball bat, a scene that she loved and which has become so famous that it was even replicated years later when Chris Chibnall wrote Power of the Doctor. Terry Malloy was credited by the pseudonym of Roy Trommeley for Part 3 to preserve what I think is the surprise of Davros' return. Part 4. To further avoid spoiling the word surprise is written here, Malloy was elected for the final episode. And Michael Sheard was chosen to play the headmaster because he'd be familiar to children. As every UK resident will know, Sheard had to be released from his regular role as Mr. Bronson on Grange Hill to participate. So yes, we all recognised him from there, and a bit of a thankless small role, but a nice little kind of cultural reference. In terms of the acting and stuff, I don't have much to say. I will throw it open, but I just have to say everything we've already said. I kind of wanted to echo. I love McCoy's more manipulative version of the Doctor. I love that he's quite thoughtful in that scene in the cafe. It shows that he actually is, debating consequences of his actions. I love Sophie Aldred's heartbreak at discovering the truth about Mike and the way that's played. I think it's really deep, actually. The Daleks are doing what the Daleks do, although there is one black Dalek that sounds exactly like Zippy from. I know it's the same voice actor, but he's been voicing the Daleks for ages without falling into that, and yet there is one of them that comes in. It's a few scenes with with Ratcliffe and the controller, and I swear he's like, "Bad computer, bungle."
It's when he when the black, it's the black Dalek, and when he talks to the little girl, so he barks something at Ratcliffe, and then he goes into a soft talking to a little girl voice, which is activate the time controller. That change of tone is so zippy.
It's very zippy. So any thoughts from you guys about the acting? DK, I'll come to you quickly first.
I will just say one of the standouts in this for me is Michael Sheard kneeing Sophie Aldred in the stomach/groin. It just looks, and for someone that was watching Grange Hill constantly, it was quite a shock to see Mr. Bronson just going feral on.
Have you not seen Star Wars by this point?
Pardon?
Had you not seen Star Wars by this point? Isn't he now as a bad guy?
I had, but he's just like middle management there. He turns up, he gets killed. It's I just watching this thing saying, he would have never got away with that if he was attacking Daddy Kendall. So the little girl, not the best actor. But other than that, I think everybody does an admirable job. And again, you've reached a point in the show now where people are not, hamming it up as much as possible. And I think that plays into this story's strengths, because if you got a similar vibe from, say, Time and the Rani in this, it would have just completely demolished it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sure. And I didn't mention them, but credit obviously to all of the people in Countermeasures, because you can see why they got their own spin-offs and stuff. They are really captivating in again, quite a smallish role. But I loved all of those guys as well. And
this is a classy set of actors. I mean, even the smaller parts, as you say, Michael Sheard. And I mean, for me, it's also seeing Peter Halliday turn up in what is a thankless role as some blind guy burying Omega. I mean, I'd say the one thing is that you can tell it's a fairly young writing team, because they write way too many characters. I mean, you're going to have to pay. I mean, lovely as they are, they're going to cost you. I mean, I mean, you've got people coming in for one scene, a lovely scene. I mean, the guy who the Welsh guy in the coffin. Yeah, he's lovely. He's a wonderful guy. I mean, but it's one scene. I mean, God, blimey, how much money have we got?
Yeah, and as much as I did say, I loved all of the members of Countermeasures, there's literally no reason for Alison to be there whatsoever.
None whatsoever.
Other than to kind of feed into the...
However, gets the best bit, which is beating the crap out of the Dalek. So, you win, you lose, really.
Yeah, fair enough. who was I going to go to next? Cliff, you about the acting then. Sorry about that.
Okay, so yeah, just picking up on the Alison point, I kind of see what you mean about Alison, but also she's there for Rachel to have someone to talk to.
Yeah.
It's
somewhere that it was supposed to be, it was meant to be calling back to Barbara and Susan's relationship as well, because when they were leaning more into we're going back to the beginning kind of thing. But
yeah,
really
I don't know how much of their dialogue is not talking about men, so I don't know how much it passes the Bechdel test. But I do like the idea
in the special edition where they talk about the Doctor and how he's probably not, human because he knows a lot and stuff. But that's one of the few that I would have preferred to have in there.
Yeah, but I think it's nice that it's two lady scientists. I think that's quite important. I think what's quite nice with the little girl, although she is, it's again, as you say, it's not necessarily a BAFTA winner. I think she's all right as a sort of possessed character, and I love the whole big sister, little sister thing that they do with Ace. This is a kind of theme that there will always be a girl of some age, all the way from baby to toddler. You've got Squeak in Survival, you've got Gwendolyn in Ghostlight. So they love playing with the idea of Ace having a big or a little sister, or some kind of contact where she can like mother or big sister them. I think that's a bit of a theme. It's kind of people sort of thinking about female characters' relationship. They're not just there to scream and do stuff, and like stand around. There's a bit of thought by a large a male writing team to try and give female characters something to do. I think Simon Williams is terrific as Brigadier Substitute. I would love to have seen more countermeasure stories on screen. I love the guy who just says, I was ordered to deliver the ATRs to this position, sir. He's basically bent.
Just sign for these hugely destructive rocket weapons stuff. That'll do.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of really good stuff here. Peter Halliday. I think Terry Malloy absolutely milks his 10 minutes for all they're worth, and I adore it. I think I am quite capable of handling the technology. I adore that little bit of Davros. I think it's very, very well cast. And you're right, it's a good point that it's hugely expensive. There's a story that Andrew Morgan didn't work on Doctor Who again because he spent all of the money ever. And you make the excellent point that it's because there's too many actors in it, isn't it? That's why. I thought it was all the explosions, but you're quite right, it's the actors.
Yeah, it's always the actors. They're very expensive.
Fair enough. Cool. Well, I'm going to move us to the VFX production design next then. This is the first instance of the skeleton effect caused by Dalek weapons. This effect would be used to date in every subsequent Dalek story. Ben Donovich expected the Dalek to keep looking and achieve with color separation overlay, and was surprised when a model ship was constructed and landed with the help of a crane, which we've kind of already talked about. I have a couple of small notes about this. Firstly, I do like that the Doctor, when burying the hand of Omega, included his own dry ice machine. Gotta have
Yep, always good. Gotta have one. I carry one wherever I go. I don't see why you lot wouldn't. I mean, Jesus. How do you walk into the room? I mean, Christ. Must be really boring with you lot.
The rest was just. I've kind of already talked about how the Tesla orb for the time controller was a bit of a cheap shortcut, and I don't find the Doctor fiddling with what are clearly Christmas tree lights very convincing in the Dalek ship or the transmat device. But again, you spend money where you need it, and the ship was good, so I'll forgive it. So any thoughts on the production design from anyone else?
The Hand of Omega looks when it's floating looks shite.
Of course,
but I can forgive it. I mean, all of it I can forgive, and that's what matters.
And the flying Dalek up the stairs is actually pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I don't know how they managed to make that pretty good, and the Hand of Omega so shite.
It's kind of unnecessary, the floating coffin as well, but you forgive it, go with it.
Exactly. I mean, that's always the sign of a good story, is you forgive the shit bits.
Exactly. Yeah. What about you? On the production design?
Or me? Sorry.
Yes. Sorry.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I'm completely convinced by the schools. They look exactly like schools that I went to when I was a kid. But they are set. So it's like, is it a mixture of location and sets, or are they all? Certainly, the hallway. Keller, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the Dalek rays. I think the whole Totter's Yard scene is outstanding. So many practical explosions that look terrific. The ship, the shuttlecraft looks amazing. I say I love the zip wire bit down and all that kind of stuff. It's a league above some of the stuff that we'd seen in Doctor Who a few years before. There's real effort to put that money on screen. And I think even though the Emperor, the Imperial Dalek ship is clearly a very small set when you actually look at it from a set designer's point of view, but you don't think that when you watch it just as a viewer, when you're not thinking about how did they achieve this. It must have been tiny, but it looks great.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
all in the filming, it is. There's another cut scene that was kind of nice, but you can see why it's cut because it wasn't necessary. Which is just a long panning shot on the entire set of the Dalek Bridge, which makes it look, as you said, infinitely bigger than it must have actually been. But it's just very cleverly shot by whoever's on the camera, and good stuff. DK, any thoughts on production design?
No, I mean, obviously you're looking at it in 2025 and you're looking back on it from when it was produced, but I still think it kind of holds up. I mean, the Hand of Omega doesn't look perfect, but as you've said, you forgive it. You can forgive all manner of sins if the production is entertaining enough and it catches you, and this one does it in spades. And I think, bar the odd dodgy effect, I think a lot of it, especially the Totter's Yard thing, it still looks good to me.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
And I think that's kind of another reason why I don't particularly think the special edition adds that much, because I don't think the effects were that bad. So with that done, then we're going to go to the audience. We always tend to ask your thoughts on these stories, and we have done here. I have a few audience feedbacks, not a lot, but just about enough to touch on. So we're going to open our subwave network and deal with that.
I'm transferring the subwave network.
First of all, from the Hit or Miss Who Trek group, Rick Cowling says, some okay ideas poorly executed by the lack of budget. I think we're all in disagreement with that one here pretty much, sadly, but to each their own. On Blue Sky, Space Creepy Face replied, one of my absolute favourite classic Who stories, I dare say one of the best overall. From the Northeast Retro Den Facebook group, Stephen Body says, one of my favourites, hated Ace though. Again, I think another rather unpopular opinion. On Blue Sky again, someone just called Carnivius has said, I like it, and has put a link to a previous post that he made on Blue Sky where he's got a figure of Ace with the baseball bat. And then I have OB's Music UK on Instagram says, it's the episode that made me a Whovian. So yeah, I really like it. And I have a couple of slightly longer ones that I wanted to touch on as well. This is from Mastodon, I believe. You in the Shadows says, I think it's one of the best Dalek episodes in the show's history, with the bombastic action sequences, great props and effects, and slow burn mystery of what's going on, both in regards to the Dalek scheme and the Doctors. I would say, though, that while it's a great Dalek story, it's not a very good Davros story. I like the Dalek Emperor redesign a lot, and the reveal is fun, but his characterization by this point is so far removed from the thoughtful, strategizing Davros we see playing his enemies against each other in Genesis. The difference is so jarring that the expanded media retroactively established that a Dalek Emperor personality was taking over Davros at this point. Oh, expanded media. As a way to make it make more sense. But it doesn't pretend to be a Davros story. His presence in the episode is basically just a little fan service nod, so I can forgive it, and I'd give the story 4 out of 5 stars. And finally, on my personal Facebook, Rick Everson, who was just on our Chain of Command review on our Star Trek podcast, hey Rick, says, this was my first Doctor Who, and I love it to this day. While I didn't appreciate all the references back then, these days they delight me, and I love that they've woven this long-range scheme of the Doctors all the way back to the beginning. McCoy just shows how fantastic he can be as the Doctor, who schemes and manipulates and has a darker edge, while Ace is amazing, and having the boldness to attack Daleks with a bat is a great never say die but also never think things through example of humanity. I also must shout out to Group Captain Gilmore, an amazing precursor to the Brigadier, and Geoffrey the Butler from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, who sparks the Doctor's philosophical debate on how many sugars he has. I also have to shout out the anti-racism messages scattered throughout this, reminding us that woke Doctor Who is not a new thing. Amazing story, amazing introduction to Doctor Who for me, unlimited rice puddings out of 5. So, yeah, cool. I don't think any huge dissent there, although a couple of opinions that we don't necessarily jibe with on the hating Ace and the effects. I don't know if I agree with that out of the way, and your thoughts on the episode. It just remains for us to give our thoughts on favourite things that I always tend to like to do in my episodes, then our conclusions and scores, and then hopefully get out of here without taking too much longer. So yeah, first of all, we're going to start with favourite character, moment, and line. I'm going to kick us off just to get through mine. First of all, my favourite character is the Doctor. As I've said, I love this mysterious, manipulative version. My favorite moment, Ace attacking the Dalek with a baseball bat, I think is rightfully iconic. And my favorite line, I actually have kind of a top three because I couldn't pick. So my number three for comedy value was, it's a very small moment, but it's when I think it's Rachel asks if somebody is all right that's been attacked. And Alison just replies, "No idea, I'm a physicist." Which is just a matter of fact. I love the Doctor's rant at Davros with the unlimited rice pudding. I kind of had to shout that out for my number two. But my number one is definitely the sugar conversation and the ripple effect of consequences of actions. I love that. So yeah, Cliff, I'm going to come to you next. Favorite character, moment, and line in this story.
Oh, there's some lovely Dr. Ace banter. I do really like, I didn't mention Michael Sheard before. I met him a few times. He was a lovely man, and I think he's a terrific actor. And I love the sort of the slowly more and more sinister, but I don't think it would matter too much if you had a quick look around, that kind of as it gets renegade Daleks are blobs, Imperial Daleks are bionic blobs with bits added. It's just glorious. And as I've already done it, but I think I'm quite capable of handling the technology, because I am the very epitome of the Douglas Adams rule that any technology before you're 35 is wonderful, and anything over 35 is terrifying and just goes wrong all the time. And I'm 44 now, so I'm just like, there's me kind of like trying to do something on a new system or something, and I'm thinking to myself, I think I'm quite capable of handling the technology, and then blow up my own planet.
We've all been there.
Sadly, haven't we? Really, often when trying to record a podcast, in my case. So,
I did that one on the iPad with you, didn't I?
Oh yeah.
Yes, because my computer just died 10 minutes before, so we did.
Really, you needed to enslave a little girl to plug into it to make it work.
Well,
maybe.
Whatever turns your black phone on.
Jill, what about you? Favorite character, moment, and line in the?
My favourite character is probably Rachel.
Okay.
She doesn't do much, but I love her. And I love the fact that she describes the Doctor as a space vagabond. Space vagrant. Sorry, I did beg your pardon. And two favourite lines, if I may. I've got Gilmore saying, I've got it written down somewhere, bear with me. Only a fool argues with his doctor. Which I love. I think that it comes from nowhere. He's a thick character and he suddenly says something quite profound. Just to give him that bit of an extra level. And also the Doctor going, frightening, isn't it, to find that there are others better versed at death than human beings. Again, lovely. And it's beautifully delivered, much better delivered than I just did. By Sylvester McCoy. It's a lovely moment.
Okay, favorite character, moment, and line for you.
In a first for this show, I agree with you on every single point.
Right.
Well, this or any show, to be fair.
Yeah. So your favorite character was the Doctor. Your favorite moment was the Ace. Your favorite line was the sugar conversation.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. You stole my thunder once again, you bitch.
Sorry, I'd never go first either. At this time, I did. So sorry, I did steal your thunder quite a bit. Anyway, we're going to deal with our conclusions and scores. I always come to me and DK last because we tend to write, a shorter essay and then a longer one in my case. So I'm going to open with you, Cliff, for your conclusion and just score out of 5 stars or burning scaros, whichever you want to use.
Oh, it's an absolute riot of witty lines and thrilling battle sequences and revelations and good character stuff and lots of fruity Terry Malloy all squashed into 10 minutes. When something goes wrong, no, this cannot be correct, which I do all the time. And also when I get stopped for a ticket when I tried to get a free train ride back in my of being poor and going to work. Do not do this, I beg of you. Have pity on me. So it's
or you, Cliff, buy a train ticket.
Yes. It was very expensive going to Hever. So yes, and it was the birth of my proper Doctor Who fandom when I taped it. It is hugely important to me. My granddad was in hospital very poorly for a while it was on, and so I have memories of going to see him and then rushing home and sort of rushing too quickly because then you have to sit through most of Wogan, which was very boring. And then Doctor Who would come on. You press play and record at exactly the same time. It's hugely nostalgic for me, and I think it stood the test of time. It's clever. It's something that new writers of Doctor Who should watch as homework before they write Doctor Who, I think.
And then cut out characters.
Yeah. And I would give it 5,000 exploding scarrows.
I'm going to narrow that down to 5. So, yeah. Awesome, Jill. And what are your conclusion thoughts and your score?
Yeah, much the same. I'd have to also say it's just such a shot in the arm. There's just a feeling of energy going through this story. I mean, the story may not actually be the world's greatest actual plot, but it just feels so energetic. It sparkles with life in a way that Doctor Who hadn't for a few years, and it feels so vibrant. It's as you say, witty dialogue, fantastic characters, exploding Daleks. What's not to like? I'm going with 4.9 out of 5.
Oh, nice. I like it.
I like to keep a little extra 0.1 for shits and giggles.
Yeah, why not? You want that sometimes. TK, over to you then.
Everything's pretty much been said, but it is one of those stories, those rare Doctor Who stories, where everything seems to come together from the script to the effects to the acting, and it was the first time that it really seemed to take itself seriously as a show in quite some time, and I think that's why it holds up so well to this day. And I'm giving it a 5 also.
Wow, lots of good scores all round, I think, for Remembrance of the Daleks. It's probably going to be a high scorer as I work it out because I know what my score is. So yeah, sorry again. I always write an essay for these things, so I'll jump into it. I sometimes forget just how packed this story is. A Dalek civil war, a mysterious Gallifreyan superweapon, a newly introduced secret military group, an enslaved little girl, traitorous fascists, and a whole lot of behind-the-scenes manipulation from the Doctor. As a result, things can occasionally feel a bit breakneck. It's as though we've joined the story halfway through. We never really learn why the Doctor has returned here now, how he lured the Daleks, or exactly how countermeasures and the fascist group became involved. To the episode's credit, though, once things get going, none of these plot threads or themes are given short shrift, even if it's easy to miss details on a first viewing. This is definitely one that's built for rewatch value, and when you do revisit it, there's so much to love, from the smaller moments like Ace taking on the Daleks or the Doctor's unexpectedly profound conversation about sugar, to the larger scope of the story's moral and thematic core, racism, intolerance, and manipulation. There are, of course, some very 1980s effects and production choices, along with the occasional bit of cheesy acting. Not perfect then, but very close. A bloody great Doctor Who story, a much-needed great Dalek story, even if Davros is completely superfluous, and a serious contender for best story of the era. I'm going to go with a 4.8 out of 5 for this one.
Ooh.
So, yeah. So putting those together, dividing by the 4 of us here, gives a final score for Remembrance of the Daleks of 4.925 out of 5. You may as well just say 5 at this point. I think we are basically in agreement with I think this being as perfect as it needs to be to get that first score. So yeah, I'm happy to round that up to a 5 if everybody else doesn't object.
Yeah, go on then, just for us.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, with Scarrow a burning cinder for now, and countermeasures signing their Big Finish contracts, it just remains for me to thank our brilliant guests. I've really genuinely enjoyed talking about this. We could have talked for way longer because it's a very awesomely packed story, as I said, and you guys have had such great insights even.
Those as well, yeah. So my
insights a long 2 hours.
Lovely.
No, you guys have had great insights, and it's been fantastic talking Who. So first of all, thank you, Cliff, for coming back and joining us again.
Thank you very much again for having me. I've loved it.
Yes, awesome. I'm pleased you've had a good time. And do you have anything that you wanted to plug or anywhere that people can find you online?
I am. Oh yes, I did a couple of Halloween audio dramas last week, which are coming out for a competition. Which what's it called? I will. The 11th Hour. It's called. So there was one I did a couple of years ago, and I'm quite excited by these. I think people will enjoy them. And I'm also in Prison Escape, which is, if anyone ever wants to come to the Netherlands, it's an awesome 3-hour interactive theatre experience, which is a little bit like an escape room, except not. It's more theatre and adventure. And if you combine it with a trip to Utrecht, an underrated city that's just as good as Amsterdam but less touristy, that could be a lot of fun as well. Otherwise, I'm just talking nonsense on Blue Sky mainly.
Yeah, I've really loved actually talking this story and Doctor Who in general with you this last week, so we'll have to keep in touch. Even though we have some wildly different views about certain eras, I do enjoy shooting the shit with you about Doctor Who. So
yeah, we can't agree on everything. That'd be boring.
Exactly, precisely. And again, Jill, thank you for coming a second time and joining us.
Always a pleasure. Never a chore.
Awesome. I'm pleased to hear it. And again, did you have anything you wanted to plug or anywhere people can find you?
You can always find me. Just write my name in. I don't know why you bloody want to, though. Oh, fucking boring. But yeah, no, I've got nothing to plug, though. Nothing.
So just Jill Speed everywhere if we look for you.
Well, I'm Jillian, but yes, it's still spelt with a J.
Fair enough. And Cliff, did you give your social media handles, or did I skip just straight past that?
I think am I Cliff Chapman at Blue Sky, BSK Social? I can't remember. It's not as easy as the old one that we don't mention anymore. Put Cliff Chapman in and Doctor Who maybe, and you'll find me.
I'll always put links in the episode description anyway. I tend to find the guest social medias and just put them in the episode description to click on. So
yeah, and I'm Cliff.Chapman on Insta, but that's mainly my cat or stuff that I've bought.
So that's
get a haircut.
Sounds really great.
Yeah. It's the one. Jill.
What's the name of your cat?
He's called Fury, after Nick Fury in the Avengers, and he's very
beautiful. Does he only have the one eye?
No, that was the panic. It's like, oh, we could call him Fury because he's got this constant vibe of being action adventure and wanting to put together a team. It's like, oh shit, no, we can't call him Fury because maybe his eye's in danger. But he's okay so far.
Of course, as always, thank you so much for your able support, DK.
Yeah, it's all right. I didn't say much, but I gave the chance for much more knowledgeable people than I to.
I'm sorry.
Where were they?
I had a lot to say.
Ooh.
Yeah, sorry you didn't get a chance to contribute a lot to this, but I think what you did was good, hopefully.
No, I just enjoyed being here and listening to the conversation.
Have anywhere that you wanted to plug where people can find you, or anything upcoming on either this or the obviously the other our sister channels over screen coming up?
Don't be stupid.
No?
No.
Just always keep an eye on our socials and in general on the two YouTube channels then to see what's coming up with that. And stay tuned because, as I mentioned up top, we will be back next month to wrap up our Dalek deep dive season with an appropriately seasonal offering. And it's New Year's Eve, but it looks a lot like Groundhog Day. Until then, stay safe, travel hopefully, and DK, we did good, didn't we?
Only time will tell. I'm going to find out. That went really well.
You've been listening to the Hit or Miss Doctor Who podcast, part of the Hit or Miss Who Trek channel. Hit or Miss Doctor Who is hosted by Mike Wilson and DK. Behind the scenes and additional material by DK, scripted, produced, and edited by Mike Wilson. Adapted from an original podcast created by Will Templar. Follow us on YouTube, your podcatcher of choice, and our social media. Links to all of these can be found by clicking on the link tree in the episode descriptions. This podcast is a Media Matters original production. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast through all of time and space. We'll be back for another thrilling TARDIS trip soon, but for now, Doctor, I let you go.